Hey, welcome back to Cole's Farm, everybody, here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. It is September 15th, 2 p.m. It's about 86 degrees Fahrenheit and 71% humidity. The last inspection I conducted was August 25th, so 3 weeks ago. This is just going to be a routine inspection of the colonies out here, and depending on what I see today, that will prompt me to do certain things next week when I prepare the hives for winter. So check back next week. So I put some pollen substitute on top of the inner cover a while ago, and as you can see, they just have not really taken to it at all, which is kind of surprising. And put this super up here too, hoping they would work it and draw it out some moving into winter. I'd pull it off, store it, and it would just give them a jump start for next year. But let's do a quick check. I mean, they've definitely sealed the frames together nicely with some propolis and everything. They might be drawing some of it out, but nothing really to talk about. So I'll probably pull this off next week, because you don't want your bees to have too much space over the winter. It's it's kind of like your home HVAC system. The less space you have, the less volume, the easier it is to keep warm and regulate the temperature and humidity. So you don't want your bees to have too many or too much space over the winter. So I'll pull that super off next week. Not too much going on, but we'll just take a quick look inside. They seem pretty tranquil right now. Curious to see how long that lasts. Yeah, the outer frames I never really expect to see too much. In fact, the few times where I do see some activity, as in eggs or a lot of food being stored on the outer frames, gets me pretty excited. But for the most part, they don't do too much with the outer frames. And that's a really nice frame. That'll be good for next year. As you can see, well, maybe you can't, but as you can see, there's nothing in there but nice drawn wax. Same thing with this one. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th frame in out of a 9 frame, because I have the division board feeder. 5th frame in, pretty much halfway. Start to see some brood, some shiny stuff here, which is nectar or sugar water. But around the brood, I always like to get this little cheap flashlight here and check for eggs. So in the open cells, it looks kind of spotty, but there's a lot of spun larvae. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Alright, I'm not going to spend too much more time on that frame. I don't see any eggs, but there is some spun larvae surrounding the capped brood. And I already saw a head The next frame has some nice cap brood on it too, so to each their own, but instead of spending a lot of time looking for the queen and everything, I just like to look for eggs. And then based on what kind of egg you see, if it's standing upright, that's a day old. Cocked over to the side a little, 2 days, completely on its side, 3 days. So looking around this pattern here, hopefully the camera can pick up on this. Let me make sure the queen's not on here first. Just do a quick look, although I am pretty terrible at finding the queen. So if the camera can pick up on this, you have all the brood, capped brood there, but watch when we go to the right, and if you can see it, all those little pearl looking things in the cell is spun larvae. I'll try to move a little slower too, and I see the camera's casting its shadow. So yeah, that's what you want to see. This queen is definitely laying nicely. And same thing on this side too. Nice cap brood. Cap brood, obviously. There's some spun larvae throughout here, and then all the way over here on this very corner, far corner, you have some eggs. So queen's still here, she's looking good. At this point, it's really a judgment call. You can, really, you can do whatever you want. You can keep moving through your hive. You do run the risk of damaging the queen, squishing the queen if you're not careful, but that happens every time you inspect your bees. So I'm just going to take a look at the remaining frames just to see how the brood pattern's looking. Another theory of mine, I've said this on quite a few of my videos, is the sun rises in the east, which is this side of the box, and the frames closest to, as I stand behind the colony, the left side, always have the best looking brood pattern. So let's see if that theory holds true, and just finish up with the top box and see how the brood's looking. So I already found eggs. There's not much of a need to continue doing that. Oh yeah, I can, as dark as that comb is, I'm just gonna look anyway. I can see eggs in that section right there. Oh yeah, every single cell. So this queen is doing what she needs to do to ensure this colony makes it through the winter. So the bees that are being made right now are definitely going to be your winter bees. It just seems kind of weird to be talking about winter in September, and I feel like I've been talking about winter for a while. And I probably have. Pretty much right after we harvest honey here, around mid-June to July, everything kind of shifts over to winter prep. So you have decisions to make, whether you want to split your hives or just have them keep going as they are. I have not split any of these hives, so I think that was a good decision, considering this queen is just laying eggs like crazy. And that's just packed with pollen. A ton of pollen, actually. Some nectar, sugar water. Alright, so bees typically move up, so I'm not surprised to see brood and eggs as much as I did in the top box. However, I do want to take a peek into the bottom box just to see if they're using that space or not. I'm guessing they probably are, given the amount of bees just hanging out on the top bars here. So I'm just going to remove a few frames and see how the bottom box is looking. Going to give them a little incentive to, you know, move out of the way. Hopefully that doesn't upset them too much. Outside frames, like I said, don't really ever expect to see too much going on with them. Here, I'm gonna grab the camera again and just listen to this. I'd say they know I'm here now. Got a few guard bees flying around the camera. To me, it's just a tough call sometimes because the bottom box so far has frames of very nice drawn comb, and you can see where brood has hatched out before because it's dark, but I'm in the middle, pretty much in the middle frame so far, and I don't really see much brood or anything, so I might try, well, I was going to say I might try something and reverse the boxes, but next week's going to be my last inspection I make for quite a while, so I don't want to induce any issues either. Yeah, I don't think they're really doing anything with this bottom box. I mean, they're hanging out down there and everything, which may just be a result of me getting into the hive. I mean, there's nice food stores. That's got a lot of pollen on it. Pollen, some capped honey, nectar, but really not much of anything. All right, so I'm gonna think about what I want to do here as I put everything back together. Alright, so I thought about it, and this is what I'm going to do. So with hive number 1, I'm going to reverse the boxes and remove the super. So they're not really doing anything in the super like I was hoping. So I'm going to remove that since they don't need it, and I'm going to put the purple, reddish, whatever, what was box number 2 on the bottom, because, what is this, 9, 8, 7, 6, frames 5 through 9, so the left side of the chamber had a ton of eggs. So I'm going to put that on the bottom, move the white box above that doesn't really have much of anything going on, and maybe that will prompt the queen to start filling all of these cells with eggs. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's get them in the box first. Okay. And I'm just gonna leave the super over here out of the way for now and put the inner cover back on. Straighten everything up. And they should be good. Alright, so hive 1, let me pick this up. So hive 1, I reversed the bodies because the box on top now has all sorts of room. They weren't using it at all, that was on the bottom. And because bees naturally move up, that's where I found eggs, larvae, cap brood, so on and so forth. So I'm hoping, because it is only mid-September and they have pretty much another month ahead of them, that if the queen starts moving up to the top box now and starts laying eggs in that like crazy, that should increase the population a lot going into winter, which should also increase their probability of overwintering. Alright, so that's hive number 1. I'm going to turn the camera off, move a few things around, and then we'll get into hive number 2. Alright, here we go. Hive number 2. This was the stronger hive this year. Big honey producer. And sneak peek, surprisingly, they're really not using the pollen I put on top, sorry about that, on top of the inner cover like I thought they would. They're going crazy on the open feeder that I have out, but they are not doing anything with the pollen on top of the inner cover. And as I say that, I'm going to take it off since they're not using it. Hopefully this is not a mess. Let's get into hive 2. See how this one's doing. Not too many bees on the super up here, which kind of something I expected anyway, so I'm gonna end up pulling this off too. They're doing a pretty good job of sealing the boxes together in 3 weeks. Alright, so just like the other hive, let's take a look at this one. Dumped a bunch of pollen in there, that's what that is, but looks like they are possibly drawing the frames out more with the sugar water provided, because they are pretty thick. But either way, let's take a look and see just how this queen is doing. Trim this tree behind me. Okay, so good lord, so these bees continue to live up to their reputation. This frame, I mean, look at this. To the right, capped honey, or probably just capped sugar water. Whole bunch of nectar or stored sugar water at the bottom there. And same thing on this frame, or this side. This frame's got a lot of weight to it. So they continue to do an excellent job at creating food stores. And this frame here, good lord, man. This is a frame I mean, I'm super excited to see this now, but if this were spring, that would definitely make me happy. Makes me happy now just because they're going to use it over the winter. But these bees for sure do a good job at storing food. Same thing with this one, small patch of brood. At the bottom there I can see some spun larvae. And so we got brood, the open cells right there, spun larvae throughout, and eggs over here. So this is the 4th frame. Eggs throughout all the open cells, actually. Surprisingly, you don't see any eggs on that side. But the funny thing is, this side, where all the eggs are at, is the side of the frame that faces east. So maybe there's something to my theory. Okay. Nice looking brood pattern on this frame as well. Some spun larvae. Spun larvae down there. I don't see any eggs. That's a dry queen cell, as in there's no larva in it. Some capped honey. That's just some food on that side. Oh, here we go. I don't know how that side looks, but it's a nice looking brood frame. It's a really nice brood frame too, and right there in the middle, that dusty bee that hopefully the camera's looking at, just hatched. Let's take a look at this side real quick. I don't see any eggs in the open cells. Most likely they recently hatched and the bees are just in the process of cleaning them up. But nonetheless, it's a pretty nice frame. It's a pretty nice brood frame. can tell you right now, this is going to be a food frame without even seeing the other side. Oh yeah. Yeah, check that out. That is a nice food store. Same thing on this side. It's got some nice weight to it. And same thing with the last frame. Not necessarily that side so much, but that side for sure. Not as heavy as the other one, but still a nice food frame. Alright, well, found eggs. Adequate food stores for this time of year. I'm still going to get in the bottom box. Just had a curiosity just to see how they're using their space. Take a quick look. Alright, just pop a few frames out. See how they're using the bottom box here. Usually gets them out of the way. Nice food frames, a lot of capped honey or sugar water. This is what I'm more curious about, the frames that aren't being used as food, to see if the queen is laying eggs. And I think I see eggs on this side. Stand corrected. No eggs on that side. Probably eggs on this one because there's a small patch of capped brood and some larvae surrounding it. Larva, and we have a whole bunch of eggs. So this queen is using the bottom box just fine. I'm gonna pull one more frame and call it quits. It's actually hard to see with the sun where it's at in the sky. Alright, one more frame because that frame's a lot of food, pollen and everything. Oh yeah, hopefully you can see that with the sun hitting it, but capped brood, obviously, and then a lot of spun larvae throughout. Big patch of drone brood there in the corner, which, doesn't really matter. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be eggs right here. Yeah, alright, looks good. Let's put this thing back together. yeah, I'm not gonna change anything around for them. They seem to be doing just fine. Eggs up top, eggs below, pretty good, nice looking brood pattern. So this queen's doing what she needs to do. Let's just smoke them down real quick, get them out of the way, and put the top box back on. I would be surprised if this colony does not overwinter, but you know, weirder things have happened. So here's to hoping, right? So yeah, hive number 2, they look just fine. Try and not squish so many bees today. Okay, so yeah, hive 2 looks pretty good. Take a look at all this going on, just from where they crawled over the box. Yeah, hive 2 looks pretty good. Turn the camera off, get situated on hive 3, and we'll take a look at that one. All right, so over here at hive number 3, I have to admit I'm pretty excited about this, because out of all the colonies out here, this was the only colony, granted this was 3 weeks ago, that started using the 1-to-1 syrup in the division board feeder, which I believe is at the top now, and drawing out practically every single brand new foundation on this new super, which is a medium. And, right, and the queen started laying eggs in almost every single cell. So that was 3 weeks ago. Those cells should either be totally capped by now and or have hatched. So I'm very excited to, good lord, that is sealed. Very excited to get into this colony to see how that medium super's looking. So, not to repeat myself too terribly much, but what this colony is doing is exactly what I was hoping all the colonies would do, having been provided the extra space with a new super to start drawing it out. That's what I was hoping they would all do. But as y'all know, sometimes things don't go as planned. Alright, let's get into this one. See how this thing is looking. Take another quick look with the camera. Yeah, again, I'm just really excited to see how that super looks. I think it's going to show signs of a whole bunch of bees hatching out. Alright, outside frame, just using that as a food store. Pretty normal. Absolutely nothing going on there. This frame has some nice weight to it, which I expect to see nectar, capped honey, probably sugar water that I'm providing them, which is fine. Same thing here, nectar on that side. I don't expect to see too much brood in this top box for one reason or the other. I could be totally wrong, and I would be happy if I was wrong. So a lot of nectar and food. Same thing on this one. You can feel it before you see it, and you can feel it with the weight of the frame. The angle this up a little. Alright, so not really, well, I was going to say they're not doing much with the top box. There is nice food stores in here, and over time they'll continue to pack away the nectar or sugar water and cap it, which is, you know, it's what you want. Just curious to see how this medium super's doing in the middle here. It's acting as a brood chamber right now. Probably going to reverse the boxes and put this deep down in its traditional spot in the middle. Outside frame, not much of anything. Nice new wax. Oh yeah. Oh, I peeked ahead. Sorry about that. I know y'all can't see, or actually you probably can see. So, food store on the outside frame. So here we are, frame number 3. Let's get you a sneak peek real quick. Check that out. Look at that brood. So they're doing exactly what I was hoping they would do. Use the new super, the new foundation, as a brood chamber, which draws out a ton of wax and gets me a step ahead. I don't know if you can see this or it'll pick up, but there are eggs throughout this frame as well, and that is probably the second go around. Actually, in fact, yes it is. And look over here to the far, let's see, you're right, there's eggs throughout there too. So this is fantastic. Awesome. And that's on the 3rd frame. So even though I found eggs, just out of curiosity, I want to see how well they have drawn out all these new foundations. So check that out too. So the darker comb, these have already hatched out of there, but if you can see that, there are eggs, and then larvae. So this is awesome. This is going to get me that much further ahead come springtime, because all the wax that you see here that they're using as a brood chamber, for now, this is going to be used as a honey super. So they will not have to build all of this wax out of natural resources come to spring when things are in bloom and we have our nectar flow. So all the bees have to do at that point is just pack away nectar and cure it to honey. So they say it takes about 8 pounds of sugar or nectar, 8 pounds of nectar, 8 pounds of sugar water, one or the other, to make 1 pound of wax. I don't think there's a full pound of wax on each frame. It's actually a fairly small amount, but nonetheless it takes them that much energy to make the wax. So if you do that in the off season, being after your harvest before winter, this super is well ahead of itself come the spring. Oh yeah. I mean, this was a brand new super, brand new frames, brand new foundation, no wax drawn on it at all. So it's taken me this long to figure that out, that it's not the best idea to put a brand new super on a colony in the spring, because their time and resources are limited. So planning ahead, and I think that's one of those things that you develop with experience over time, planning ahead, if you add new equipment to your colonies after your harvest, leading into winter, it gives them, for us, let's see, that's 3 to 4 months to draw out your supers. And then those supers that are fully drawn out are the ones that you can use in the spring. And they should, next year, they should be able to pack this full of honey very fast. All right, finally, that's the outside, the side that faces the east. I don't see any eggs on that side, and I don't see any eggs on this side. So one, two, three, four, five. So five frames worth they're using to raise brood on this new super. And then, as you can see, once we start getting to the outside, very typical, they're just not working those frames yet, which is totally fine. So that is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so this super is going to help me out in the spring. And as you saw, just to give them a little incentive, I moved frame 10 to 9 and frame 1 to the number 2 spot. So those frames are no longer on the very outside. Maybe that'll give them some incentive to start drawing out some wax on it. All right, so what to do now? Should I even look in the bottom box? I'm just gonna crack this box to take a look at the bottom. Might not even get into them. Actually, that kind of reminds me, since I took that box off to put the deep back in its middle spot. So given how well this queen and the bees are doing with that brand new super, which is on top now, the middle deep had nothing but open frames. A few frames used for stores, but now the queen should start laying more eggs in the middle there, so that should help them out as well. Alright, that's it for hive number 3. That one looks really good. I was very excited to see how that super was looking, and it was looking just as good as I was hoping. They made very good use of that space, and the queen has created a brood chamber of 5 out of the 10 frames, which is the typical center frames. So I'm going to turn the camera off real quick and get into hive number 4. Okay, hive number 4, if my memory serves me correctly, this is the one that I was kind of worried about. I recall seeing one queen cell on one of the first few frames, and I don't remember seeing any brood, so we shall see. Yeah, they're not doing anything with this super. Let's see. Alright, well, it seemed pretty calm. Not much going on there. frame's got some weight to it, so they're capping some honey and storing, most likely, sugar water. Food. Nothing else. Nectar, honey. I really just want to see some brood. A lot of nectar and honey on this one. Whole bunch of nectar. There's absolutely nothing on that frame. Oh. All right, well, so it's been 3 weeks. Let's think about some bee math here. So it's been 3 weeks since I inspected this colony. An egg is an egg for 3 days, and then it pupates into a larva. It's a larva, uncapped larva until day 9 or 10, and then worker bees, the females, and that's a new bee right there. Worker bees are capped around day 9 or 10, and they hatch around day 21. So if I'm seeing new bees, because it was dusty, and I'm seeing spun larvae, that means, well, we always want to look for eggs. And the best place to look for eggs, yep, got them, is right around where you see larvae. So, and there's a nice patch there too. Let's just double check for some eggs. Yeah, sure enough. All right. So I really want to get to the bottom box, and it's the first few frames. They had 1 queen cell. I'm pretty sure this hive swarmed sometime in early August and left 1 queen cell for this colony to survive. So after a queen hatches around day 16, they say she hangs out in the hive for about 5 days, goes on her mating flight. You're not in the clear yet because she still has to return and then start laying some eggs. So those spun larvae, or the eggs that have pupated into larvae, that was about, well, I'd say less than 10 days ago, because they're not capped yet. And that's a food frame. So, and that's a new bee right there. Newish bee. So they're not out of the woods yet. That's a new one too. So that's the last frame for the top box. Let's see if we can find that queen cell. I'm sure there's still evidence of where it hatched out, but I'm really hoping to see a lot of eggs and a lot of spun larvae in the bottom box. So this was a late season swarm I caught that re-swarmed a few weeks later, like I think 3 weeks later after I put it in the box here, and then swarmed again. I suspect in late July or August, when I just really was not in the hives at all. So check that out. Judging by the front porch, sometimes there's not a lot of activity in this hive, which has also created concerns for me, but you can only see so much by looking at the entrance. You really have to get into your hives and inspect them. And it's pretty tight quarters here, just because I got a whole bunch of, that's one of those old frames, you knew it too. Got a whole bunch of equipment out here. Need to bring some back into the garage. And I gooped that up. They were making a pretty fat frame here, and I just ripped it apart for them. I'm sure they do not appreciate that. What is this I spy with my eye? I cannot remember if that is the queen cell from last time or that's a new queen cell. So this hive just cannot make up its mind. Let's see if I find another queen cell or not. Alright, so a whole bunch of nothing going on there. I do remember now that, I do remember this was a swarm that I caught, but they created such thick frames. Huh, here, let me get off camera here. So a local beekeeper, part of the club, was, she had posted something about purple honey, and I thought that honey looked pretty dark, but check this out. Does that look purple to you? I think so. I don't really want to taste it right now. But yeah, I think this hive got into, sure enough, man, that is dark. Look at that. Got some purple honey. And since that's new to me and pretty cool, I'm gonna get my phone and make a quick video. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. I'll put that up on Instagram once I get back into the house. Yeah, I thought that honey looked super dark when I pulled that frame apart, and then once some dripped down onto the top of the cover over here, and then on the hive tool, it's definitely got a purple hue to it. It's pretty neat. All right, well, back to what I was doing, which is really hoping for more brood than I'm seeing so far. Nothing going on there. This colony needs a prayer. Oh, holy smokes. Man, I tell you what, sometimes when I sell something short, look at that. Good Lord, that is really what you want to see in September. And then, although that's a funky pattern, they're not really drawing out much more wax on the rest of that new foundation. They're making do of every square inch. All right. I'll definitely be checking on this one next week. I'm not concerned with it currently. However, the curiosity that I have is whether or not that queen cell on the first few frames hatches out, or maybe the current queen already killed it and the bees just have not cleaned it up, meaning chewed it out, and that's a frame of food. All right, well, I'll tell you this much, I'm very pleased with what I saw in Hive 4. One, the purple honey, that's pretty cool, but more importantly, they got some brood up top, and they definitely have a few nice frames of brood below. So I'm just gonna let this ride as is. I'll be out here next week to put the candy boards on for their winter prep. And one more look at the purple honey. You can't really tell because it's so dark. But yeah, sure enough, I think they got into some kudzu, which there's plenty around here. Alright, so I was pretty concerned with this one, but they seem to be doing okay. Alright, well that's that for routine inspection in September. It's hot, I'm tired, I can feel it. I'm glad it's overcast now. The sun was baking me big time about 20 minutes ago. But yeah, all the hives look good. I'll be out here next week, like I've said a few times, to do one final look, mainly to install the candy boards. And that's pretty much it for this year, unless we have a very mild winter again, which if we do, I'll be out here, probably not going to do a full inspection because that's not really necessary. I'll just come out, pop the outer cover, and take a look to see how much hard candy they have left, and if they need a refill, I'll have to make them some and, you know, provide them some more, because it's mild winters here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. It'll get colder in October, it'll be warm through November, warm and cold through November and December, and then just when you think you're out of the woods in March, like we'll have some days in the 70s and 80s, it's a false spring, because every single year since we lived here, since December of 2015, we've had snow in March, and that's what did me in this past year. Got a little overzealous, made a few splits in March, thinking, you know, this was going to be fantastic, I'm going to expand the apiary this year and have a great honey harvest. And then a cold front came through, and all those splits I made zapped the bees, absolutely killed them. So still had a pretty decent harvest, but this year I'm going to pump the brakes, or actually next year, pump the brakes, wait until it's definitely warmed up in April, and then start making some splits. So enough about what I'm going to do next year. This year has been great. Thanks for watching, everybody. I always save this to the end. I should probably start saying it earlier in the videos, but if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell to receive notifications for further videos. The previous video I recorded this week, I said I was going to install the candy boards this weekend, but I have another week until I get busy again, so I'm going to do that this coming weekend. Probably make a how-to video for the folks that don't know. Make a video on how to make the sugar, which is extremely easy, and that'll be it for my 2019 season. Alright, hey, again, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the subscribers. Keep sharing the channel with your friends and family, and hopefully, you know, we'll keep gaining subscribers and the support y'all provide. Again, if you see anything weird, or if you have any tips or tricks for me, or something you might want to see explained further in an upcoming video, just leave your comments below. I try to answer all of them, and I'll take into consideration any requests y'all have. So that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody.